Rick, how you doing, man?
Good morning, Keith. I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. Nice wig today.
Yeah, thank you. I've got the whole selection, and this was the one that popped out this morning. I hope we have a good topic that fits my hair.
We do, man. I think so. So today's topic was inspired by our good friend Matt, who lives in Austin, Texas. And it's called, let me get it right. 7 years ago, I would have killed for a worse day like this.
Oh man.
So yeah, 7 years ago, I would have killed for this worst day.
Well, I want to hear what your worst day would have been. So let's you kick it off.
Okay, so I'm gonna set it up. So Matt and I were talking about just being really, really grateful. And but the way that we started off, not with a complaint, but he was just kind of sharing what's going on for him in at his work in his company. And he was just sharing about that, and I was sharing about some things. It wasn't, again, complaining about anything. It was just um, this is not what I had hoped for. I feel like I need to speak up about something. What was promised isn't happening right now, and I've got to take some action. It was more in the context of that. Uh, for him, it was a job title that was promised to him with a little bit more, money. And so he was just kind of talking about it. And I was sharing with him, how I've had similar experiences, that I thought it was going to be this and it was that. And I was giving him my own experience over the last year. And as we were doing this, I think I said to him, man, you remember when you lost your job, like 8 or 9 years ago? He's like, yeah, man, I remember that day. I was like, he lost his job. And this was, if you back up, maybe like 5 years before that, he had gone through a divorce. And so he was really like scrambling to pull everything together. He's like, Keith, man, I was choosing, like, I didn't have enough money for Chipotle. Like, I was choosing, am I going to go get a 99-cent yogurt tonight to eat? Or am I going to just go without food? He's like, man, I'm not proud of this, but I was driving like without insurance and praying that, nothing would happen. Or I was on my mountain bike, riding my mountain bike, and like, I cannot get hurt because I don't have health insurance. And he was telling me about that. And then when he and I became friends, within a year, he was let go from his job. And I was like, dude, it's Friday. My friends Rick and I, Tim and I, we're going to Park City. Why don't you come? I'll spot you. Nothing's going to happen between now and Monday. You can get back on the job hunt on Monday. Let's go. And I said, and I'll give you money, over, to get you through a few months. So we were talking about those times, and he went on to say, Keith, when I reflect back on that, dude, the worst day that I'm complaining about now, where he makes a six-figure salary, he said, this worst day that I'm complaining about now, he said, man, 7 years ago, if you'd have told me that I would have a day like this today, I would have killed for this day. And so that's where it is. It's like the mind is so, it's so fixated on just, it has no sense of history unless it's filled with suffering, but it has no appreciation for the present moment. It's always comparing it against expectations. It doesn't measure it against times that were not so good. It has a problem doing that. It's always moving, targeting, and adjusting on the fly. And from my own self, I remember when I was unemployed for a while during the pandemic, and I was volunteering. I remember when I was offered a position, doing a whole comparison thing. I'm like, dude, I was like, ego, stop right now.
I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
Right.
Ego's like, it's not good enough. That's it. No, it's not. It's not our bad. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. So I had to remind myself in every moment, practice gratitude for how it shows up. Do not try to compare it to what your expectations think they should be. It's they've done this many variations of a study like this in which they tell somebody that, hey, you're going to get $500. Okay, the money's free. Or they think they're going to get $500. And then when it all is said and done, they're given $100. And but you're upset because you're like, I'm cheated out of 400. You didn't have anything to start with, so be
That's right.
grateful for the 100. And I think about that all the time, is like, man, being grateful for whatever it is that you do have. And so when I look back over the course of my life, and what happened 7 years ago, and I went through a challenging period that was really an opening to something very, very different and much more fulfilling and rewarding. When I went through that, I always reflect back like, man, any tough day that I have today, dude, if you told me 7 years ago, you could have what's happening right now, or you could have that day in the future, I'd have that day in the future.
Yeah.
So I would have killed for 7 years ago, I would have killed for a day like today. So that's where the topic comes from. What about you, Rick?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think that it's very difficult for us to remember challenges that were so overwhelming that we almost shut down, or did shut down, or had some tragedy come because we exercised poor judgment because of the stress we were under. And I think it's easy to remember that we have all had terrible moments and dead ends in our lives, and that the way you get through them is to get through them, is to continue to persevere and to work hard, and maybe get help from other people, or maybe find some inspiration in reading or in nature or something, whatever it was that got you through that. But we tend to forget. I was reading something the other day about how childbirth and the amount of pain that women go through for childbirth, the human mind, the human brain somehow blocks out your memory of pain. Otherwise, you'd never get pregnant again, right?
Right.
And the species would die out. Well, I think it's kind of like that for us. We tend to get through these enormous challenges, and then all of a sudden it's erased, and how we got through it is a mystery to us. But I think the takeaway is not only the gratitude about getting through it, but the gratitude that we must have in our personal lives about how capable we are of getting through no matter what it is. And if we can get to that point where we believe, look, I've done this before, this is still a challenge for me, or it's a new challenge for me, or I'm experiencing a little bit of a lack of self-confidence. You've done it before, you'll get through it again, and be grateful for the tools that you have to do that. So my emphasis, I guess, in this area would be to try to keep in mind that you have the endless capability of doing whatever it is that you need to do. And what gets in the way is self-doubt. What gets in the way is the idea that I can't do it again. I can't pull it together. Look how old I am, or I had a lot of money then, or I had a woman in my life who supported me, and now I'm by myself and I'm alone and I don't have the same. All of that is just a construct of your ego trying to create obstacles so that it can protect you against those obstacles. So it has a job to do. And I don't think that we need to get sidetracked at all, except to look at what the issue is, what that obstacle might be. Like in Matt's case, how am I going to get through not having the raise or the promises? And then figuring out a strategy and following through in the strategy. But it's nowhere close to 69 cents worth of yogurt and eating dinner and not having insurance. And I mean, he's gotten through that. He'll get through it again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he and I, we just kind of laugh about, like, man, there the ego goes again with its short memory, forgetting, ignoring how good we have it now. Like, I remember, I think like when some people, kind of see me and, they know the last year that I volunteered, they're like, man, I was only furloughed for 2 weeks. You were not employed for a year and you still, came and volunteered. And the reason I can do that is because I'm like, this is good, because I have a perspective of when I didn't have the capacity or savings to be able to still volunteer. So for me, I'm able to do that. Or when the day goes longer than what I expected, and at Mayo Clinic, it could be you're asked to stay late or a case gets added on. I think back like, man, I would choose to have a case added on every day than not have a job. Like if this is my choice, to work an extra 2 or 3 hours or not have a job, sign me up for more cases every single day. I just try to think about those things, like finding something to be rooted in with gratitude. So I think that the two things for situations like this, where the ego has a short memory and doesn't appreciate whatever's occurring in that moment, is acceptance and gratitude. When I first moved to Arizona, there was a period to where my AC in my car wasn't working. And I remember, even then with no practice, I remember thinking like, man, it's hot. These windows are down. It's the sun in here. At least I'm not walking. Just like,
Yeah.
I'm grateful not to be walking right now. And I just remember all those little things along the way, and accepting of the situation as it is, while you work to improve it. If improvement is a possibility, and if not, then you accept that improvement isn't a possibility, and then being grateful for wherever you are in that moment. Those have been keys for me to appreciate even the days that are not so great. And I also see those days too as being openings. They're
Yeah.
openings for something different, for something, for deeper for me. So, Matt and I just were kind of chuckled about it, man. And I see parents sometimes who are like, this kid will not do his homework, or she will not clean the room up, or whatever else. And then something unfortunate happens along the way, to where maybe the young person is suffering from, really paralyzing anxiety or depression. And they look back like, man, if you'd have told me that I would have just had to settle with an untidy room or a few homework assignments, I'll take those missed homework assignments every day, than to see my child suffer like this. And so just being grateful, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with improvement, because it's not. We benefited by it tremendously. But when that improvement causes suffering, and I'm not talking about suffering of just hard work and rolling up your sleeves and doing the necessary work to improve, or to achieve, or obtain a skill, not that, but I mean the suffering. When it causes a suffering for you and others, then I think that's when it's not healthy for you. And so you want to move away from there. And I think for me, the two tools have been acceptance and gratitude, for me to appreciate whatever's happening right now, while I, seek to improve upon whatever is occurring.
Yeah, with one little footnote, I would say, Keith, I'm with you on all of that. And the footnote that I would add is that, suffering sometimes, you always need to have acceptance in your bag of tools. But I think suffering also needs to have a cold, hard look. You need to have a cold, hard look at it. And you have to decide, am I the root cause of the suffering, or is it this circumstance? And usually it's you as the root cause. But let's say in Matt's case, and this is probably the bad example, but let's say in Matt's case that not only was he not promised more money, and not given more money that he was promised, and not given the promotion that he was promised, then at some point you have to look at your circumstance and say, I want radical change.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to get off this boat and get another ticket somewhere else. And that's one of the things I think that is a big problem for us humans, because we tend to like our problems. We tend to stick with them. We stick with bad
Yeah.
relationships. We stick with bad jobs. We stick with things that are not tolerable or shouldn't be tolerable, because we're afraid of the unknown. And so one of the things that I think people have to be very careful about is, if you're in a groove and you're feeling like it's not working for you, or there are things you don't like, you have to get out and you have to change it. From my experience, radical change works great. I've had changes where I've just quit, walked out the door, and went to the airport, and that worked for me. Now, I know everybody can't do that, but I'm a big believer in, here's an example. When I was in college, I had a biology class, and there was something I remember vaguely about pithing a frog. You take a needle, and you stick it in the frog's brain, and you swish it around, and the frog doesn't die, but he has a whole another set of behavioral characteristics.
No
So my
doubt.
point is not the cruelty of to this animal. I'm sorry for the example, but the reality is that pithing, that change of circumstance, that cataclysmic break with what your current situation is, sometimes is a tonic, and it sets you on the right path. So I'm a big believer in embracing change, and no matter what happens, trying to maximize whatever joy you find in your circumstance. And often the maximization is the getting off of that merry-go-round and getting into something else. Yeah, I know. It's insecurity that everybody has to fight. It's, yeah, I got bills. Yeah, I got the kids to worry about. Yeah, okay, you got all that. But if you sit down and think about a way through it, you're smart, figure it out. And I think radical change usually gives you the kind of uplift. It kind of gives you that courage, that jolt of energy that makes life worth living. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page. Starting with acceptance of whatever the situation is as it is, while you seek to improve it, or with your example, you change it. And I think that's where Matt is at that crossroads right now, to where as he's appreciating it, he is seeking. He's what's the word I'm looking for? He's exploring
Yeah.
other opportunities and things like that. And not only exploring, he's starting to take action. So which is really cool. And the suffering for me is and oftentimes it has been optional, but self-inflicted. And many times I didn't heed it, and it just meant more suffering. And the times that I did, it deepened, my practice and my level of consciousness, and I was able to grow from it. But in either case, it's been a teacher. So yeah, and one of the things I look back now is, man, whatever situation I'm in now, I always know if I think it's bad now, there's another level. It can, there's always another level. It could be worse. The minute you say this is bottom, no, there's levels to this. There's another bottom. So
absolutely, man.
I've got to the point to where I don't need to experiencing another bottom. And so, and the practice helps me with that. Rick, man, thank you for your perspective, man. I appreciate you. I love you.
I love you too, Keith. Great job today. I really learned something this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adios.
Adios.